Hari Om. Welcome to this Ola session 23. This session is on the lessons on finance in ancient India. And because it is dealing with finance, wealth, sampatti, let me invoke Goddess Lakshmi, because she is the one who is taking us through all the hardships. So, Ashwadai, Godai, Dhanadai, Mahadhane. Ashwadai, Godai, Dhanadai, Mahadhane. Dhanam me jushatam devi. Dhanam me jushatam devi. Sarva kamanscha dehi me. Lakshmi is invoked as the giver of horses, the giver of cows, the giver of wealth, riches, money in whatever form. We are, familiar with the concept of Ashtalakshmi. We have Dhanalakshmi, Dhanyalakshmi, Santanalakshmi. We have Rajalakshmi, Grihalakshmi, Arogyalakshmi. So whatever is good, whatever is Shrimad Urjitam, all that is wealth for us. So ancient Indians believed in the concept of wealth in this broader aspect and not just the hard cash or the coins or the notes. So let us take a journey through the finance, lessons of on finance in ancient India. So what does finance really encompass? What all does it include? It broadly encompasses creating and managing wealth. It's associated with debts, credits, assets, liabilities, investments, taxes, taxpayers, direct and indirect taxes, the remissions in the taxes, so many things, and the tax collector of all. Then purpose, why do we collect tax and why did the king collect taxes in ancient India? Obviously, to help the society in general and individual in particular, to provide infrastructure, to provide all kind of necessary health facilities, provide all that, I can't deal with all these aspects, but few of these points will be dealt with in this talk. What is the importance of wealth? I'll quote from Mahabharata and then go to so many Subhashitas are there, In Mahabharata, Bhishma is telling to King Dhritarashtra, Na narasya naro daso, dasascharthasya bhupate. A man is dasa, slave of not another person, not another man, but he is the slave of wealth. Arthasya bhupate, gauravam laghavam vapi, dhana dhana nibandhanam. Whether you are considered to be very great, very revered or not so, very lowly person, all depends on how much money, how much wealth you possess. And we have popular Subhashitas. I have taken just one charana of all these. Sarve gunaha kanchanam ashrayante. You may have so much of wealth, your wisdom and all, but ultimately, you have to worship Mahalakshmi. Kanchanam ashrayante. Sarvarambhaha tandula prasthamula. Do vakt ki roti. That is, everything ends up there. It starts from there, it ends there. So tandula is rice, grains, really speaking. So sarvarambha, all big things, you may venture, you may visualize, I'll do this, I'll do that, big adventurous things. But you have to start with tandula. Then hiranyamevarjaya nishphalaha gunaha. Somebody advising his friend, what is the use of this studying this, that, it's all in vain. Hiranyamevarjaya, go after seeking wealth. So, artho hi loke manujasya bandhuhu. Artha is the bandhu, the apta, swakiya, the kith and kin and the relative in the true sense of the term of a person. And therefore, one has to obtain artha. Now, what is the Vedic concept of artha? Let us see right from the Rigveda, Atharva Veda. We had Arthashastra as an Upaveda of Atharva Veda in the last Ola 22, as an introduction. Okay, Arthashastra is an Upaveda. This is an extension of that talk, Arthashastra's talk. So, Agnina Rayimashnavan Poshameva Dive Dive, right from the very first verse of the Rigveda, what the seer Gritsamada is asking from Agni is wealth. And Agni is called as, Ratnadhatamam. He is the best conferrer, best donor of all sorts of gems, jewels, all that. Then Posham Rayinam Arishtim Tanunam. Is it that only Ratna and the wealth is sought? No. Atharva Veda says, Posham Rayinam, the nourishment and the protection of Rayi, that is wealth. It is derived from the root Ra. Ra is to give. Ra Sampradane. So Rayi, that which is given out. So Posham Rayinam, the protection and preservation of wealth, that is one part. And Arishtim Tanunam, and the Nirogata of the body. Okay, so the body free from diseases, ailments, that is also greatest wealth. Asma Subhadra Dravina Nidatta. All the Rigvedic seers or the Atharva Veda seers, they seek for hundreds of sons and so much of wealth and cattle and big houses to stay in. So this is the concept of wealth. Atharva Veda clearly says, Prajaya Pashubhihi Grihaihi Dhanena. 4 types of wealth. It is Praja, your children, Pashubhihi, the cattle, then Griha and Dhana. So Dhana comes in the last. So these are all the concepts of wealth. And we have a typical word called Rayasposha in the Vedic literature. In the later literature, in the Smritis and in the Bhagavad Gita, we have the word Yogakshema. Apraptasya prapanam yogaha, praptasya rakshanam kshemaha iti yogakshemaha. But in the older literature, in the Vedic literature, we have the word Rayasposha, meaning somewhat the same. And it is creation, protection, growth and distribution of wealth. That is what is important. When it comes to Kautilya, he calls Varta as economy. For that he has one word, Varta, which basically includes, agriculture, Krishi Gauraksha Vanijyam, agriculture, cattle rearing and trade. Okay, and these 3 together, what Varta does? Varta has the main object of Apraptasya Prapanam, what you don't have, you achieve it. Praptasya Rakshanam, Rakshitasya Vardhanam. It's not only you protect, but you have to increase the wealth. Money making business. No industrialist, sits aram se in his house after he earns his, achieves his target and his goal. He has newer targets, newer goals to achieve later, right? So it is praptasya vardhanam and vardhitasya tirthe vitaranam. Tirthe is patre. Patra, deserving people. So whatever you have increased, whatever wealth you have increased, that you distribute, disseminate in the deserving people. So that is the whole purpose of Varta. Now we had barter system. We know of barter system even now. When I studied economics in 1970 for first year of my arts in Elphinstone College, I had economics as a compulsory subject. So we studied economics and barter system was, taught to us as a system. But then we have this barter right from the Vedic times. And even now, I belong to a very small village. I come from a very small village in Karnataka. And I remember, my grandma used to give a handful of jwari, zondhale, and get some curds from the Vakkilgere family around, because they had plenty of milk and curds and all. And when we all used to go in the summer, though we had some cattle in the house, it was not sufficient for all of us. So it was a barter. So give something and take something in return. So pratipanaha phalinamma krunotu, let bargaining and bartering make me rich. make me wealthier, make me fruitful. And yena dhanena prapanam charami tanme bhuyo bhavat. This is from Atharva Veda, the same sukta, Atharva Veda 3:15. Indra maham vanijam shodayami. Let me invoke Indra, who is the greatest of the traders. He is the most coveted trader. So let me invoke him and let me do that trading, that bartering. So barter system is mentioned, and a clear mention in Atharva Veda 4:7-6 that some medicines are purchased in exchange of cloth and goat skin. Medicines are purchased in exchange of goat skin and cloths, some garments. So bartering prevails even now. But nobody wanted to, borrow money. Borrow money. He would give something in exchange. Whatever he produced, he would give something in exchange, because debt was considered as very sinful, an evil thing. And therefore they said, Andrina asmin, Andrina parasmin. Let us be debtless, free from debt in this world as well as the other world. So let us not carry any debts when we die. So they are against the debts, the loans, etc. And nowadays we are promoting loans. Take this loan, all the bankers are there chasing you for taking loans. But debt was not a welcome idea those times. So this was the concept of wealth in the Vedic times. What is the picture in the post-Vedic literature? It hasn't changed much. Okay? It's almost the same. The material well-being is supreme, says Arthashastra. Artha eva pradhanaha iti Kautilya. And Kautilya believes only in Trivarga. We normally know in Indian scenario, we talk about Chaturvidha Purushartha, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Kautilya never speaks, never utters a word of moksha. Trivarga only, Dharma, Artha and Kama. Okay? And then he says, Artha Moolau Dharma Kamau. How can you achieve? How can you obtain Dharma and Kama? If you don't have Artha, you can't do Dharma, nor can you have Kama, enjoyments. And therefore, Artha is the main thing. So proper management of this Artha therefore becomes a very, very important aspect. And this income or finance or Artha, there are so many different definitions. Last lecture we saw that Prithvi is Artha, Vishayavati Bhumihi Arthaha, Tasyaha Labhapalanopayaha Yasmin Uchyate Tad Arthashastram. That was the definition given by Kautilya. There is another definition given by Kama Sutra, by Vatsyayana in Kama Sutra, and that includes Vidya. And therefore the picture of the manuscripts, Vidya. Vidya is also Artha. Bhumi, earth. Vishayavati Bhumihi Artha, that is Artha. Hiranya. Hiranya doesn't exclude silver or corals or gems or diamonds. Hiranya is inclusive of all the precious metals, gems and jewels. Then Pashu, cattle. Dhanya and Bhandopaskara. Bhandopaskara, big vessels, etc. to cook. Even that is wealth for a grihini, for a housewife. That is her wealth. And then Mitra, Bhandopaskara Mitradina, Mitra, friend. So Mitradinam Arjanam, friend is also the good aspect of wealth. So, and Arjitasya Vivardhanam. Gaining friends is easy, but retaining them, maintaining that friendship is very difficult. So retain that and increase that quota. So Vivardhanam. So this is what Arthashastra, this Vatsyayana's Kama Sutra says. And another thing which Shukraniti says is, one should protect his wealth like a miser, Kripanavat. Like a miser, he should protect the wealth. But while spending, he should spend it without any attachment, like a Karna, like a Dani. He should not hesitate while giving it to the right person, deserving person. And this is called wise spending. So you earn and you protect it like a miser, but when it comes to charity, don't hesitate. So that is the wise spending, he says. And what is income and what is expenditure, that is clearly stated. These gold, vidya, hiranya, the pashu, dhanya, etc. When it comes to you, it is your income. When it goes to someone else, it is expenditure. So simple a definition of what is income, what is expenditure. Make 2 columns. Okay. Now, how did we gain this earth? Not earth. Earth. How did we gain this? Through trade, basically. So, and ancient India had trade routes, this is Google Swami's picture. So, Egypt, Ethiopia, Bactria, Scythia, China, Constantinople, Rome. So, all these places, India had a travel, navigation through the eastern as well as western ports. And therefore, the trades brought so much of wealth, so much of riches. This is the Varta. If you remember in the last lecture which Vinayak took, this was the same table, okay? Here the picture was the same. Only thing is, Swami was in the middle. I have put Kosha in the middle. Really speaking, these are the 7 pillars of statecraft according to Chanakya or Kautilya. Okay? Swami, Amatya, Durga, Janapada, Kosha, Danda, Mitra, etc. These are the 7 great pillars on which a state rests. So Swami is the main thing. But what can a Swami do if his treasury is empty? If his kosha is empty, he can't do anything, any good thing. And therefore I have placed kosha in the middle, and all the 6 pillars, they are resting on the kosha. And for that we have so many quotations. In the next slide perhaps there are so many quotations. But this trade and all, Krishi Gauraksha Vanijya, I told you, this is Varta. And I showed you the trade routes also. Where does the trade happen? It can't happen in a place where nobody stays. So it has to be Janapada Moola. It has to be, it does require a population, people, whom you trade with and who are going for trading. So they are basically the people, the Janapada, and therefore Varta Janapada Moola. And Chanakya says, and it is very, very true even now, the people from Cambodia and people from Surashtra are very good traders. You just think of all our Kutchi brothers, all our, right from Ambani's, Birlas and all come from Surashtra, Saurashtra, and they are very good businessmen, very good traders, right? So, Varta includes this, as I told you, Krushi Gauraksha Vanijya, agriculture, cattle rearing and trade, and it enables the king to get the grains, the agricultural produces, wealth, hard cash and whatnot. Then art forms and crafts are not mentioned here, though the Karu Shilpi Gana in all the Smriti Granthas, okay, let it be Arthashastra or Manusmriti or Yajnavalkya, Kamandak or Mahabharata, everywhere the Karu Shilpi Gana, Karu are the artists, Shilpi are the sculptors basically, but they are again, Karu could be Nata, Karu is Nata Kushilava, so Karu Shilpi Gana, they are the taxpayers, but they are not the main source of income. That's why it is not included in Varta. Okay, Karu Shilpi Gana is not included in Varta, though they are the source of state income in some portion. So from where does the hard cash or money, wealth as such, we saw about the trade, agricultural produce also is one thing. So there are 7 main criteria from which money or different types of wealth like agricultural produce, fruits from orchards, etc. So they are these 7. Fort, Durga. Now Durga is not just a fort like a Raigad or Simhagad, it's not just like that. Durga includes all that. In fact, Kautilya gives you Ashtadasha Tirtha, the 18 different portfolios of Amatyas or the ministers, 18 different portfolios, okay. So all that would come under Durga. So there would be a Sita Dhyaksha, an agricultural officer. There will be a Sutra Dhyaksha, a textile manager, okay. There will be Suna Dhyaksha, a slaughterhouse manager. There will be Suradhyaksha, Suradhyaksha, wine, okay? So an officer looking after the wineries and the produce which you get from the bars and other surashalas, madhyashalas. So there are so many. You will be like amazed to see there is Lavanadhyaksha, then Suvarnadhyaksha, Panyadhyaksha, the open marketplaces. In addition to that, all the shulka, that is the custom duty, that comes from Durga. Okay, so there are 21 types. I am avoiding the detailing, so I just tell you, but I have avoided to put it in the slides, because it becomes too much of information. Then country, Janapada or Rashtra, they are again 13 types, like land revenues. If you do a survey of the land, revenue of that, private land holders, tax on that. So many things coming from Janapada. Then Khani, obviously mines, and Akaramulaha Koshaha, there will be a quotation next slide perhaps. So all the kosha depends mainly on the Akara. Akara are the mines. So there are hundreds of mines, not hundreds, but many types of mines are mentioned, including the Suvarna, Rajata, etc., coral, etc., and even the salt and the metals, the ores of metals, all these are mentioned. There are 12 types. Then irrigation, Setu. Setu is basically, the irrigation plants. So whatever produce you get from irrigation, they could be like the flower orchard, the fruit orchards or the flower gardens. From that you get some produce. And all the Smritikaras have given a license or a freedom to pay the tax in kind, not necessarily in cash. Whatever you produce, 1/6 of that belongs to the king. 1/6 of whatever you earn belongs to the king. We'll come to the portion, proportion of taxes at later stage. So that was irrigation. Then forest, there are forests, like Abhayaranyas now we have, Abhayaranyas. So there will be elephant parks, there will be deer park, there will be cattle park. 3 types of parks, plus any agricultural produce, like the wood, the teak, or honey, anything which we get from forest, that is vana. Then herds, vraja. Herds are of cattle, of goat, of ashva, of boars, so many types of herds, 5 types of herds are there. And 2 trade routes basically, the land route and the sea route or the water route. It could be through the rivers, but mainly through the sea route. Okay, so 2 routes for trading, Vanik. So Vanik Patha are 2. So total there are 70 types of outlets or inlets for the king. They are like inlets from which money is poured into the kosha. 72 types. Okay. Then what are the different names given to? Are they all only tax? Everything is not tax. Okay, there are some duties. Custom duty. Oh, we had custom duty then. We had a custom officer also, most corrupt, like today. So all these people and all these types of taxes and the sources of cash, hard cash, they are mentioned there. For example, mulya is a price of a commodity. Mulya is the price of commodity. Then bhaga is 1/6 fixed share which goes to the king. Shulka is the custom or excise toll, excise duty. Then bali or kara means tax, that is only one word for tax, bali or kara. Then vyaji, it is 5% commission or surcharge. Then klupta is a fixed tax on waterways especially, it could be in cash or in kind. Then vaidharana is a special type which is compensation for transfer of state rights to a private individual. A state owns something and the state can't run it, the king can't run it. He can give it to a private individual to run that business, but then he will have Vaidharana Kara. Vaidharana, a special type of tax. Then there is Rupika, it is 8% sales tax. Then Atyaya is a penalty. Atyaya is basically you transgress something and then you are penalized for that. So that is atyaya. Then pranaya is a high tax, pranaya is not prema as it is a dictionary meaning. It is prakarshena niyate, but it is a heavy tax, okay? It's a heavy tax, a special levy. Vartani is especially the road tax when you are transporting the goods from one place to another, at every toll and the border of the states, etc. You have to pay the toll. So that is the road tax, the vartani. Then danda is fine. Danda is fine. Even now we use the same term. Parigha is a gate toll. Parigha is a gate toll. And especially the ferry charges when you are transporting goods through ferries, So these are that. And pratibhaga is tax in kind. So all these are different types through which king's treasury gets filled. Okay? And this would be filled not only by cash, it will be kind also. Like a miner would give some, some jewels as 1/6 portion of his bhaga. Okay? So that could be in kind as well. So measures of revenue, they should be increasing. How can you increase your kosha? It should be swelling for the benefit of the people. Kosha can never be empty. It has to be filled always. And there is a special tax in apad dharma. For example, like, emergency, like some wars, etc. happen, unpredicted wars, etc. Then people come forward. King makes an appeal, like we had for China war, for the Pakistan war. Ladies donating their jewelry and Mangal Sutra, So like that. So these are some like emergency situations where special tax, but that is voluntary. That is not compulsory. So continuing the well-tried policies, successful policies is one of the best ways to earn regularized tax. Okay? Then increase in agricultural production, because agriculture is the main source of treasury, main source of income, besides the akara, that is the mines. Then promoting trade, avoiding troubles and calamities is okay. Eliminating theft and corruption at the level in which the officers work on the policies, work on those departments. So checking that, controlling, checking the theft, etc., that is a major source. Otherwise, we see that in the warehouses, so many hundreds of like gunny bags, they are eaten by the rats and the mice, and nobody takes care. This should not happen. That's a criminal waste. That's a national waste. So this is not theft, but this is misuse or not negligence maybe on the part of the government, right? So such things should not happen. Keeping strict control over government employees, because they are the ones, like it is said in Matsya Nyaya, etc., the big fish eats the small fish. There is another example. When fish is swimming in the water, you don't know how much water it drinks. So the people who are dealing with cash, you don't know how much cash they steal. Apahara. Vittasya apahara. So how they do it? Very cleverly they do it, and therefore you have to be very, very cautious. Reducing tax exemptions and remissions. In fact, I remember having read that we are giving, in India, because it is a mainly agricultural country, we are giving so many like facilities and everything free for the farmers and all. So you stop that. Many economists have come forward saying, you stop the anudana. You give them on loan and let them repay it once they get crops, Give them some like period of 2-3 years. We'll see how Chanakya has done this, right? And increasing cash income, these are some of the measures of this. So these are some of the quotations I have been telling you. There are so many quotations. I have given a few from Kautilya, Mahabharata and Kamandaka. Though this is in continuation of, so to say, Arthashastra, the title of the talk is Ancient India, the lessons on finance in ancient India. So wherever possible, I have tried to trace it from Rigveda to Atharva Veda, Mahabharata and the other Smritis. So Kosha Mula hi Rajanaha, Kosho Vriddhi Karo Bhaved. King cannot operate if his treasury is empty. Koshamulo hi Raja iti pravadaha sarvalaukikaha. Everybody agrees that Raja is Koshamula. Koshamula sarvarambha tasmat purvam kosham aveksheta. Very simple. Akara prabhavaha koshaha. Koshat dandaha prajayate. Prithvi kosha dandabhyam prapyate kosha bhushana. So kosha gets swelled by akara. By kosha dandaha prajayate. Danda is the jurisprudence. Okay, danda. Or danda could be army. Last time we saw danda has 2-3 different meanings. We saw here now just 2 slides before danda is penalty. Right? So danda could be penalty, danda could be dandaniti, jurisprudence, danda could be army. For arms, for buying weapons, etc. Kosha is necessary. And kosha gets swelled after what? After akara. So akara leads to kosha, kosha leads to danda, danda leads to prithvi. If you have good army, if you are a baladhya king, nobody will look at you. Nobody will play pranks with you. Right? And therefore we have to be very well equipped on the border, on our fronts. And then kosha dandabhyam prapyate kosha bhushana. So prithvi prapyate. The entire earth you can conquer if you have kosha very well equipped. So alpa kosho hi Raja. And if at all by any chance the kosha gets emptied, the king is going to ask the people only where from he will get the kosha filled. So more taxes. So better now pay the taxes, otherwise tomorrow we'll have to pay more, double. So grasate, he will eat up, he will devour his own praja. So to avoid that, pay taxes regularly. I'm not an income tax officer. So, mines of metals, gold and salt, these are the akara, mines of basically the metals, gold includes all other things, and salt. Who are the officers in charge of all these things? There are so many officers. I mentioned a few in the Ashtadasha Tirtha, like, some of the officers I did mention. Agriculture, it is Sita Dhyaksha. Sita, we will say Sita is Rama. So Sita Dhyaksha could be Rama from Ramayana point of view. Because Sita, we know only Ramayana's Sita. But Sita is the furrow made by the plowshare in the field, in the farm. Right? And Sita, because Janaka got her in that plowshare furrow, he named her Sita. Right? So Sita Dhyaksha, agricultural minister, Krishi Mantri in today's terms, then trade Panyadhyaksha. He is the minister looking after all sorts of Panya. Panya is market. Panya is market. Deals with basically import and export. Now what sort of import there was in ancient India? Maybe from outside countries, maybe from neighboring states also. That is also import. Okay? And Chanakya says one thing very clearly, that while you are exporting, there could be double charges. But when you are importing the necessary goods, they are duty free. They are duty free. Isn't it interesting? So director of stores or tax collector, Samaharta, he is the key person. Samaharta is the key person. He is sort of home minister, works with the help of Sthanika and the Gopas. And Samaharta Janapadam Chintayed Utthitaha. I mean, he is the one who is, if the Amatya, we last time saw that there are so many upadhas which Amatya has to cross. Amatya are put to test. If he is not tested properly, if he is not, he doesn't pass all the test, and somebody from, because he is favorite of somebody, he is appointed, then what havoc he can create. He will ruin entire community, entire society. So Shulkadhyaksha, the customs officer, because Shulka is the custom duty, excise duty, we saw, right? So Shulkadhyaksha is custom officer, Akaradhyaksha is the mining officer, Suvarnadhyaksha is basically in charge minister of all these Suvarna, Rajata, diamond, coral, Pravala, money, etc. Then Lavanadhyaksha, salt manager. Now all these people, they have full scope of corruption. They can hide the true income the true produce, whatever they produce from the mines, whatever they collect as a tax from the gopas. Gopas are the small territories, no? Like Gram Panchayat collects something, then it goes to Nagar Palika, Jilla Parishad, and then, like that, municipality, like that. So small things are like gopa. So if this Samaharta, who is collecting tax from some 100 people in a small hamlet, right? If he does some mischief, he plays some mischief, and he says, no, some 3-4 people didn't pay. And like that, he goes on doing it, changing the people, every time. He is hiding that, he is stealing that money. Basically, the thing should have gone in the king's treasure, and it goes into his own personal pocket, right? So, like this, they can do all sorts of mischiefs. So, that is the full scope of corruption there. And Chanakya is very well aware of that, and he warns the king, 100 times that before appointing these ministers, you have to check on their credibility, their integrity, their commitment, most important, their character. And for testing their character, there are so many tests, like sending a Vaishya to him, sending somebody, and saying that, oh, this king is very bad, you join me, I will give you this. And just see whether he breaks apart, whether he is loyal or not. His loyalty is the most critical part of thing. So there are different types of test for him. I mean, all these people, of course. For Raja also, there are so many. Indriya Vijayi Raja, it is said, he is Rajarshi. And when you are collecting tax, king should not be greedy. He needs money. He needs money to spend on the people. But he should not be greedy. How should he collect taxes? Yatha madhu samadatte rakshan pushpani shatpadaha. Have you seen a bee sucking the nectar of a flower? How gently it sits on the tips of the petals and just sucks the nectar and goes away. That shatpada, that insect sits so gently on the petal. The petals are so soft and so delicate, but a single petal doesn't break off when the shatpada or a brahmara or an insect, the bee sits on it. So as he takes only the madhu and doesn't harm the flower, similarly, the king should get only what he needs, what is abhipsita, not harming his praja, not harming the people. Tadvadarthan manushebhya pushpam vichinvita moolachedam na karayet. As a gardener does, he plucks flowers. He doesn't harm the entire plant because it's going to give flowers again, right? So you do not eradicate that. Do not harm it or ruin it totally. Pick up whatever you want, only gently. Okay? So the taxation should be gentle. That is Mahabharata Udyoga Parva. King should not harass the subjects for the sake of treasury. And Kamandaka, Kamandaka says, Yatha gauhu palyate kale duyhate cha, sichyate chiyate chaiva lata pushpa prada. As a gardener, he waters the plants, and whenever the plants give the produce, he picks up the produce, but again starts watering the plants. As a cowherd, he tends his cow, his cattle, milks the cattle, but then he takes care also of the cattle. Similarly, the king has to take care of his people. Tax collection is like a gardening, water the plants, take care, and then collect fruits or flowers, and feed or tend a cow carefully and then get the milk. King should not destroy the productive capacity of others by excessive taxes, Manu says, but nor should cut his own roots by not levying any tax on them. So don't give anything free. Manu also says, don't give anything free. Okay? You tax them, you levy tax on them, kale, looking at the proper time. So that proper time is very important. Now the theory of taxation in short, in a nutshell, 4 main things are there, Taxes should be proportionate to one's income and skill set. And therefore, there is not a uniform rule that this one has to pay 1/6 only. Normal, I mean average could be 1/6. For some it is 1/8. For some it is 1/10. For some it could be 1/4, 1/16 also. So taxes should not be arbitrary, should follow certain pattern. For which type of profession, for which type of vocation or industry you want to tax how much, you have to make a policy and follow that policy. Taxes should be collected at convenient time. Normally it is biannual or annual, okay? Twice a year or once a year. It is stated in all the smritis. And tax payment should be convenient to the payer as well as collector. So whenever he has produce, a farmer for example, that time he will be able to pay. If you ask him when all his produce is consumed by him, he won't be able to pay even in kind. When he harvests something, that is the time when he should be paying the tax. So it is not a uniform time for all the professions and all the people. So in the Atharva Veda, I think, it is yatha kalam yatha shafam. Kala is the kala, the digits of the moon, so it is 1/16. Atharva Veda says it could be 1/16 or yatha shafam. Shafa is the hoof of an animal, hoof, khur, janavaran's khur. That shafa has two parts, like it is split into two, 4 shafas, so 8, so 1/8 part. So yatha kala, see, they are not explicitly saying 1/16 or 1/8. You must decipher what is there. What is kala? That is 1/16. And what is shafa? It is 1/8. Okay? So that could be the tax. Traders and artisans should pay 1/5 of their profits in silver and gold, while the agriculturists were to pay 1/6, 1/8 and 1/10 for grains grown in fallow region, that is Manu. For Shukadhanya, that is barley, wheat, etc., the grains in the pods, that is 1/6. For Shimbidhanya, that is like pulses, the kalaya, etc., pulses, etc., it could be 1/8. And for grains grown in the fallow region, that is 1/10. Very lower quality of soil, it is 1/10 of grains. And this was not progressive but proportional to the function, to the fluctuating income. So not that every year you have to pay the same amount of tax. If your income is less, that year, according to the income, you pay the tax. You show your income, no, you are filling the tax return form. So you show your income and you pay the form, you pay the tax accordingly, right? So profit tax was also collected, and even gambling operations were taxed. The Dyutashala, they were like government things, but they were taxed, okay? Tax remissions, who all paid the tax? Everybody had to pay. Women of all varnas were exempted. So nice. Women of all varnas were exempted from paying taxes, basically because they were not perhaps earning in those days, right? We can't demand that now. Military villages, this is very, very unusual and deserves to be followed, I feel. Military villages habitated by the king, exempted from taxation because they provided army men. Yaudheya Gramaha. He calls it Yaudheya Gramaha. There are certain villages, certain territories where you have all the army people. So such villages should be exempt from taxes because they provide you security around the year, right? Learned Brahmana was never taxed, says Manusmriti. But does it mean that Brahmana, just because he is a Brahmana, he is exempted? Not so. People accuse and criticize Manusmriti that he is very partial to Brahmanas and all that. It's not really so. He is very unbiased. See the next line. The Mahabharata says that Brahmanas who are trading, who were traders, and who were agriculturists and cattle rearers, they paid regular taxes. Only those who were running Gurukulas and doing the Vidyadana, they were exempt from taxes. I am a Brahmin, but I am a trader, I have to pay tax. Then no exemption for me. In fact, in Shakuntala, Kalidasa refers to Tapaha Shadbhagam. The Kanuva Maharshi, it has a reference to Kanuva Maharshi and Dushyanta. Dushyanta is a king, Kanuva is running a Gurukula. Now they can't pay in cash or not in kind, but kind in what? Intangible. What is that? Whatever tapas, whatever punya, whatever merit they have acquired, 1/6 of that king is entitled to have. So they do lots of good karmas, but 1/6 of that goodness is transferred to the king. So even the Tapaschat Bhaga is given to the king. And if the Brahmins who are traders, agriculturists, etc., they are unable to pay the taxes, Mahabharata Shanti Parva says, the king was free to sell their land and recover the amount of tax. So no concessions just because he is a Brahmana. Okay? Physically handicapped people like deaf, dumb and blind were exempted from tax according to Apastamba Sutra. Apastamba Dharma Sutra, very old text, Apastamba Dharma Sutra. So the physically handicapped people were exempted from all taxes. The goods intended for marriage, etc., samskaras, the gifts to be given to the bride, or the goods which are imported, which are transported for sacrifice or for puja, for deity, pratisthapana and all those things, worship of gods, consecration of a vow, they were all duty free, even if imported from another city. But after saying this, Kautilya again says in the next sutra, many times there is a likelihood, there is every chance that people will hide some money in the hollow idols of the gods. So at the custom gate, they have to check. You don't levy tax on them, but you have every right to check what is in. If they are hollow, you have every right to check such things. Because, wherever man is there and whenever there are certain rules, they always find a loophole in something and how to run away from paying tax. We also do the same thing, tax remissions, right? So, but then you have to be very, very careful. Though they are meant for the sacrificial thing or the worship or this or that, there is every chance that through this, the Sartha Vaha, the caravan leader, may steal something, may smuggle something inside. So that smuggling has to be checked at the border post, check post. Now this is very interesting. If a cultivator constructs a tank, a well, or an artificial watercourse for his unsown land, his barren land, king should not levy tax thereupon. He is doing something good. He is cultivating that which is uncultivated so long. So you should encourage him. You should encourage such people. So he should not levy the tax till the person recovers twice the amount which he has spent on it. For building a tank or a well, he has spent certain karshapanas, certain amount of rupees. Then till he recovers double than what he has spent, he should not be taxed. But once he gets that, you can start levying tax on him. So there is a leeway, there is a concession, there is a flexibility that every year at this particular time you pay the tax or die. It's not like that. And I tell you, there were no suicide cases in Arthashastra period. I mean, not a single case is referred to like that because they are merged in the debt and they can't pay the debts. Nowadays we hear of so many such things. It's very saddening, right? In spite of giving everything free to them, still there are farmer suicides and all. Such things are not reported. At least we don't come to know about such things. I was interested in this particular last point. If a cultivator builds a pond, or this is like a CSR activity. This is like a social responsibility work he is doing, and he is acknowledged for that. We have an instance of that. Here is the pond man of Karnataka, Kamegowda. So Kamegowda has dug 16 ponds. He is 82 now. He is 82. He is a shepherd. He is a shepherd. So when he used to take his the sheep, for grazing, he saw that the sheep don't have any water pond, any water reservoir nearby, and whole day he will be after that herd of sheep. So he bought some equipments and he started digging, the places, and he got water. And all these are interconnected ponds. All these are interconnected ponds. If you have heard of Baba Amte in Maharashtra, Anandavan and Hemalkasa, there also we have similar concept, all interconnected ponds. And you do the rain harvesting from the hills in Hivre Bazar also near Pune. They do the same thing from the hilltop, whatever water flows, the rainwater, they store it and connect it to the lower area, like that. So even in the drought season, even in the Grishma Ritu, maybe the upper ponds will go dry, but the lowermost pond will still have some water, right? So that is the way from higher region to lower region. That is the policy adopted in Anandavan, in Hivre Bazar also. So this is the Kemegowda example. And I think recently Prime Minister referred to his name in his Mann Ki Baat. In the Mann Ki Baat he referred to, and thereafter I think the Karnataka Chief Minister has given him a free pass of KSRTC, bus pass, till he lifelong. I mean at the age of 82, where and how much he will travel, he should be really given, tax benefit. I mean, because he has done such a great work. So while we are reading the ancient text, it is not just to collect the information. It is not just to compile what is there, how we can implement it even in these days. So I find there is a relevance of these Arthashastra texts, the Smriti Granthas, be it Arthashastra, Kamandaka, or Mahabharata, or Shukraniti, or Apastamba, or there are n number of texts. So they are relevant in certain aspects. So we should try to implement those principles in modern scenario. And then only we can, boast of our heritage. Oh, this is such a rich heritage we have inherited and all that. Otherwise, we will be basking in the old memories and doing nothing on that. So we should be implementing on what we know, what we learn. So I will end with this. Even in today's India, agriculture, cattle rearing and trade are regarded as the fundamental sources of the treasure or the income of state government, central government. And only change is democracy has replaced the autocracy. Earlier it was the king, now it is the prime minister and the chief minister. So it has become a democracy instead of autocracy. That is the only change. But many of the principles are relevant even today. So I will end with this shloka, this verse, which was written by Kamandaka in his Nitisara. Kamandakya Nitisara is a rich tribute to Arthashastra and an abridged version, you can say. Arthashastra is too voluminous. But Kamandakya Nitisara could be treated as an abridged version. So he has paid a tribute to Kautilya, Ekaki. What I can do alone, we all normally say, alone I can't do anything. We need some people and then I can go with them. But change, you have to start from yourself. And alone also, a single person can bring in lot of change. Ekaki, mantra shaktya. Mantra is not the tantra mantra wala mantra. It is mantra is counseling. Mantra is piece of advice. Okay? And therefore an amatya is called mantri. In amatya you have sachiva, mantri, amatya. So many names are there, right? One who gives a good piece of counsel is a mantri. One who is always shacha samavaye, always with the king, is sachiva. And amatya, one who stays near him when required. That is so there are different shades of meaning if you go to the nirukti, the etymology. So ekaki, mantra shaktyayaha, shaktya shaktidharopamam, ajahara nrichandraya chandraguptaya medinim, niti shastramritam dhiman arthashastra mahodade. In short, I bow down, I salute to that Chanakya, Vishnugupta, who alone without anybody's assistance. On account of his good pieces of counseling, to the king Chandragupta, he brought to him the entire Medini, the entire Prithvi. Another contribution is that time in the 3rd or 4th century before the Common Era, that is the period of Chanakya. So all the Indian states, Indian continent was divided into small Janapadas or Ganarajyas. He wanted to bring them all under one sovereign king's umbrella. So that was a big dream which he dreamt of, and he tried his level best to achieve it, and he was successful in doing that. So Namaha Vishnuguptaya. So here I end my presentation. What kind of frauds were reported in that period? One, I already told you how in the Murtis the apahara was done. Other thing was like hiding the real income, that people are doing even now. And how you studied all Shastra. I have not studied all Shastra. I have browsed all Shastras, I should say. And I'm not a deep, I can't claim myself to be an Arthashastrajna per se, but I have referred to Arthashastra and I have been doing it, whenever necessary. So not all Shastras, but I love Sanskrit and I love whatever is there in Sanskrit. So you also start loving now. What about counterfeiting of coins? Any textual references for this? I haven't found, but then there must be, because he has warned about that, the weight. There is a separate section of the weights and measures in Kautilya Arthashastra. Okay. So maybe the size remains the same, but the weight. So he has stolen some metal from that, some copper from that. Okay. Okay. So I'll close with Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Dhanyavadaha.